was the last copy.
Now we'll never know if Willie makes it.
In modern context, the blindfold of Lady Justice symbolizes impartiality. However, the blindfold has also historically represented her obliviousness to an incompetent or corrupt justice system. Cletus and Bill Bob have no issue with the justice system that deliberately turns a blind eye, especially if it means it can preserve a more valuable asset. In this case, Gordon Bombay's talent as a hockey coach.
All right, we are in the movie theater with Cletus and Bill Bob. I'm Bill Bob.
How y'all doing? Cletus here.
And today we are going to talk about one of my favorites, Mighty Ducks 1, the first movie.
These are some amazing films, and I do understand why they are your favorite. They're not quite mine because they're not Free Willy caliber, but...
I mean, I never said they were Free Willy caliber. I just, they're one of my favorites.
That's fair, and I appreciate you clarifying that. But as I recall, there were there 3 or 4 films? There was a trilogy.
Right, there was a trilogy. And the first one, it's about Gordon Bombay. Let me give you a summary. So Gordon Bombay was a successful but arrogant lawyer who, after a DUI, was sentenced to 500 hours of community service coaching a Pee Wee hockey team. He hated hockey due to a childhood trauma where he missed a key shot in a championship game and was ridiculed by his coach. Coaching the Mighty Ducks forces him to confront his past, learn the value of teamwork, and rediscover his love for the game.
This was quite a touching story, touched upon a lot of emotional points, and I think it elicits the classic rising tension and looking back on the past remembrance. My English teacher in 10th grade, I tried to get him to include this as part of the curriculum, but he said no because it was not a book. But I said, look, movies are better than books, and you know this.
Right, because they always turn books into movies, but they never turn movies into books.
Right, which is insane to me.
Well, you wouldn't read them anyways.
Well, that's true. I suppose nobody really would.
Right, so, I think what's interesting right here is I think he gets a fair penalty because, most people, when they get a first-time DUI offense, they could go get fines, get their license suspended, get mandatory alcohol education that takes 9 months, probation, and potential jail time. And you have these varying consequences by state. But he, had to coach 500 hours of hockey.
I feel like the director was kind of given a wink with that name, Bombay, because he was drinking Bombay gin in that scene. Isn't that right? When he was in the car, he was drinking a bottle. It was almost like Leaving Las Vegas with Nick Cage, but this was a kid's movie, so that was kind of interesting.
Well, it is kind of the kid's version of that movie, and, I just think it's cool, because, okay, now let's say you see a pretty lady, and she's really drunk, and the police officer pulls her over, and she gets sent to jail. And, the judge is thinking, yeah, what an irresponsible person. Let's give her a hefty fine, a couple months jail, maybe some probation. Yeah. But he finds out that she was a great volleyball player and a potential volleyball coach. And there's a bunch of kids that need a coach that play volleyball. And so, he realizes that she gets the ability, because she was a good volleyball player, to bypass jail or penalties or fines and just coach volleyball.
This is that kind of progressive type of, criminal sentences that we're sort of seeing here. I believe in Seinfeld, they wanted to make a show where he hit somebody with his car and then was sentenced to becoming Jerry's butler. Sort of a similar premise here, although Jerry Seinfeld, being the you-know-what that he is, I'm sorry, folks, that's maybe a bit much, stole right from the Mighty Ducks playbook. And I mean, I still have not really forgiven him for that. And besides that, all the movies that he was in, I mean, I did like B-movie. But let's talk a little bit here about Gordon Bombay, this character, played by one of the Sheen brothers, or was it a cousin? It was either Emilio Estevez or Edward James Olmos, or was it Charlie Sheen?
Well, I mean, my brother thought it was Michael J. Fox when we were kids.
I could see that.
But it's Emilio Estevez.
Okay, it's Emilio. I was thinking it was Edward James Olmos. Edward James Olmos had the acne scar-ridden face, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So if he got the DUI, then maybe the judge would sentence him to volunteering for a facial reconstruction clinic, whereas normally you might volunteer for that and be paid by the hour for your time. He's doing it for free, and that would be a different one.
I think the judge has a bias towards sports teams because he doesn't care. If you get an artist that's great at teaching art,
Right.
they're not getting out of the DUI. They're going to jail. Right? If you get a great engineer, great at programming, he's not teaching kids how to program. He's going to jail.
Although, if the judge put the artist on a sports team, that would be a funny punishment. But then the sports team, of course, would not win.
Well, I think the judge is secretly betting on the sports teams.
And that could be a whole lot of legal corruption that we're finding out. I think, if anything, maybe an artist could come up with the new team mascot and be given about a week of time to come up with this idea, and then at the end of the week show it to the judge, and judge makes the final call. Either you're going to jail for a year, or we're going to accept this, and this is the new mascot for the team. Good luck, boy.
Yeah, and I think that's a great idea because, you know, he only cares, the judge
Right.
only cares about, you know, the sports teams. And
That's what it seems like here.
And, you know, because I remember when I got my DUI,
Yeah.
it was a very different story because, you know those people that they have a DeLorean, right?
Oh, yeah.
And when someone has a DeLorean, I'm 9 out of 10 times, probably even more, they're fans of that movie, Back to the Future.
Of course.
Right? You know, no one's gonna spend hours and hours learning how to fix that broken DeLorean when it inevitably, you know, has an issue with no mechanics that really know the infrastructure and how to fix DeLoreans.
Right.
You know, just because most people don't have them.
Yeah.
Unless they're a big fan of the movie.
Right.
And I'm that way with Spider-Man 1, with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1. And so,
Classic.
you know, instead of a DeLorean, I have a Goblin Glider that I like to glide on.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And remember that time, because sometimes we go watch movies during the morning. You know, maybe like we wake up at 6.
Yeah.
And, you know, we need to get to the office at 9 o'clock. But, you know, the traffic's too large.
Right.
Right? You know, and I'm like, hey, Cletus, no problem. Let's just take my Goblin Glider.
Of course.
So, you know, but the thing is, the Goblin Glider, only one person can sit on top of it.
Yeah.
So what happens is, you know, you got to pick up the little handle on the bottom and hang from it while I'm gliding you there.
And actually, it's a little like Back to the Future in the sense that if you recall in the first one and second one when he was on the skateboard, he was holding on to cars as they were driving around. And I have held on to the glider and was on a skateboard as you were getting through traffic. But it was a little like water skiing, although more dangerous because there were giant solid cars that I could bump into, which I have.
Well, that's only when you had a skateboard around. When you didn't, see, I had to install a handle. And I was telling you, look, you just got to hang on to that handle. I'll fly us there. We'll fly over traffic.
Yeah.
And the one thing you got to do, though, is when I'm about to land, you got to scream out, you know, hey, Bill Bob, I'm here.
Right.
Otherwise, I might just land. Because normally I'm just used to just landing like normal.
Yeah, and you got a lot on your mind.
And so that's what, you know, so I was doing that one day, but I had a little bit too much whiskey during our movie viewing.
In the morning.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, I was being a bit, you know, I wasn't driving my best, and the police spotted me.
Yeah, I should have said, give me the goblin keys, Bill Bob. You're in no condition to be floating.
That's true, and but I mean, you were hanging down there even though you knew I
Well,
was.
and I think I was on cocaine that morning, so I really had no frame of reference for anything.
Right, so the police found us, decided to pull us over, and they.
I pretty much ran away because I mean, as I recall, I still had about half a gram, and sorry to kind of put you in that predicament. Although you were the one driving, I probably would have been. I would have gotten slapped with something.
Well, I mean, I knew, I didn't want you to face any repercussions.
I appreciate that.
What I did was, I lowered you in the alleyway, and you just hid your cocaine into the sewer.
Yep.
And I flew off, and the police got me.
When I got back there were some very hopped up rats that were running around, and they had gotten into it, sort of like that cocaine bear. These were the cocaine sewer rats, and that was not fun because they did the rest of it, so I had a pretty glum night. Plus, I was very depressed that you were in the can, at least for that night. Now, what did they end up sentencing you to for that DUI?
Well, I mean, they destroyed my Goblin Glider. They just took it and took a flamethrower and just burned it while I was sitting there, kind of in tears.
Gosh.
And, I had to pay a hefty fine, very hefty fine.
Damn pigs.
And, I just, I couldn't do anything about it. So.
And, how much was that Goblin Glider? I mean, they're not easy to replace.
That's true.
You'd think that, I suppose that was the major punishment on you, was they destroyed it. Did they tell you you were not allowed to buy any more within a certain time period?
Well, that's what they told me. I may or may not have a couple, around, stashed in there.
Yeah.
Don't tell the police.
And I mean, look, we can always make an argument. It's a glider. They probably said you cannot buy any more Goblin Gliders. They didn't say anything about buying a werewolf glider or a vampire glider.
Or a meerkat glider.
Yeah, exactly. So you have a meerkat. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Did you ride that into work?
I mean, it's really just the Spider-Man 3 surfboard glider with some meerkat faces taped on.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and... normally we typically drive the Cletus and Bill Bob mobile to work.
Yeah. Love that car.
Well, it was a great car, but...
It was. I mean, I suppose it's as good a time as any to discuss, us two cinephiles here, we've been a little bad, and both of us have run afoul of the law. And Bill Bob talked about his DUI. I happened to get one myself, and this was not my finest moment, but I was driving the Cletus and Bill Bob mobile through town. I had...
you really can't miss it because it's kind of like a float parade with our faces and torsos.
Right.
Right.
I was really drawing attention to myself. I had been at the office celebrating the release of Toy Story 4 and had drank quite a few shots of whiskey, celebrating with some of the interns and Gregory, and I mean, it was pretty fun, but everyone bailed on helping me get to the movie theater because that's where Toy Story 4 was being screened that night. I forget why nobody else wanted to see it that night. It's almost like a setup, really. I don't even know where you were, Bill Bob, but it may have been something.
I mean, I think I was in jail.
Well, actually, that's right. We got our DUIs close together.
We did.
I get in the Cletus and Bill Bob mobile, and as you said, it was a great car because those floats that are built on it they practically got flattened with all of the mishaps in my driving that occurred wherein I drove through Howard's Shoes for Kids. I drove through the bowling alley. It was a little like that scene from Blues Brothers where they're driving through the mall. But
right, and then you lodge yourself into the police station wall.
Yeah, kind of made their job easier, and they joked about that as they cuffed me and threw me in the cell. And I was, of course, all the way down the hall from you, but we were screaming at each other about, how much we'd messed up, and also reciting famous lines from some of our favorites, such as the Mighty Ducks.
Right, and I'm not going to lie, they tortured us, because
They
we
did.
were sent to a room, and we were just locked up, and all of a sudden, the policeman comes, and he gets a copy of Free Willy 2 on DVD, and he just destroys it in front of us.
I was hoping that you wouldn't bring that up. That's such a painful memory for me. And I have to say, it was then that I said, sir, this is, I would have rather been in prison for 2 years, or 5 years, over you doing this in front of me. You have really made your point, and I will never drive a giant car with giant floats on it through establishments and property and causing millions of dollars of damage ever again. But that, of course, was just the beginning of what they did.
Well, yeah, because the judge realized, like the judge from Mighty Ducks 1,
Right.
realized that you used to be an amazing baseball player.
Right. Yeah, it's true. I happened to see Angels in the Outfield, and similar to Mighty Ducks, I love those sports movies about misfits. We'll talk about those at some point later
you picked
on.
baseball because baseball, to you, had the better movies.
Exactly. Some of my favorites: A League of Their Own with Rosie O'Donnell, and Angels in the Outfield, The Rookie with Randy Quaid. He showed up and had a giant beard and was paranoid about UFOs, but boy, could he throw a ball.
Right. Major League.
Yeah. Yep. Bad News Bears. God, one of my absolute favorites.
Right. So, when you were, so the judge realized that you were great at baseball and decided, look, here's a bunch of kids. They suck. They're the worst team in the league.
Right.
Let's make you coach them for 700 hours.
Yeah, it's very similar to Buttermaker, played by the legendary Walter Matthau and later Billy Bob Thornton in Bad News Bears. Our team was called the Shitty Penguins.
Right, shitty spelled with a CH.
Right, yes, exactly. It was a play on the fact that we like to use Citibank. We started off, actually, these kids were pretty good. So unlike the Bad News Bears, the kids were very good at baseball. In fact, one of them was a few of them were natural athletes. But of course, nobody was really monitoring me. I just had to get something signed off on by a man who drove up at the very beginning of each game to record my hours, and then he'd go away. So I decided to make a little money and get some action on Little League that year, and basically sabotage the team that I was coaching. When some of these kids were asleep, I did things like, give them a bunch of sleeping tablets so they wouldn't wake up, take them out of their beds, and drag them out to the middle of the road and drive over them with my car. Just a leg, not to kill them, but it was to incapacitate them and ensure that we came last. And I bet a lot of money because a lot of people thought this team was good and was going to do better than they actually did. So I made a killing.
Right, and, most people didn't know about that until now. But,
Well,